Hi, in less than 1 minute, I'm going to show you how a new employee can gain access to multiple web applications with just one password. And in just 1 minute, we can enable this new employee to be able to reset their own password without involving IT. And in just less than 1 minute, we can grant a revoke access to web applications and computers with just a few clicks. And in less than 1 minute, this new employee can securely access corporate resources with multi-factor authentication right away. So we're going to start by going to go to Active Directory, which is the normal process for most organizations for adding a new employee. So we're going to create a new Active Directory account for our new employee. And okay, all right. So next we're going to add an email address. So this email address is going to help create accounts for the web applications that our new employee needs to have access to, and it also doubles as our multi-factor authentication. Next, I'll also put in a mobile number, which we'll use as our initial method for multi-factor authentication. And lastly, I'm going to add this user into a security group, which will help define which web applications this user should have access to. So now we're going to switch over to our company single sign-on portal. So this is where I'm going to have my employee start off at. Right, so I'm going to have him log in with his credentials. Now, before we log in, I just want to point out that with we have the end user can start resetting their own password just by clicking on the forgot password link. Right. So let's say Jack lost his paper that with the temporary password on it. So instead of having to call IT, Jack can just click on the forgot password link and use his telephone number to reset his own password without involving IT. Now, the other location that we can do password reset is also at the computer login. Okay. So and that's the normal use case where most people forget their password after being away or they got locked out. Now, how are they going to log in to submit a ticket? Right? So they can just do it by themselves, right at the computer login. So they just need to put in their username and click on the forgot password at the computer login screen, right? Even before they log in, they can just choose multi-factor authentication and reset their Active Directory password. Okay? All without involving IT. Okay, so let's go back to our user portal here, and let's go ahead and log in. So we're going to go ahead and send a text message. So we see that text message. And we're going to click on that one-time link. And then we're going to click on the approve button. As we see, it automatically logs us into the single sign-on portal. And since this is the first time Jack is logging into our user portal, we're going to ask him to set up some additional two-factor authentication options, right? Maybe set up a YubiKey or his Google Authenticator. But in this example, we're just going to do security questions. So we can have some predefined questions. or have the user create their own. All right, so once we're in, notice that Jack already automatically has access to over a dozen web applications. And we're going to click on Salesforce, and notice that he's logging into Salesforce without a password. Okay? It didn't ask him for a password. Okay? So all that Jack did was just log in with one password into our single sign-on portal and start logging into each of our different web applications. So let's go to our banana ordering portal, and we see didn't ask him for a password, it just logs him in. And as you see here, we also automatically created his account, right, in less than 1 minute. All that we did was create an AD account and put Jack into a security group, which automatically created his account in the appropriate web applications. Right. So we can also add additional web applications just by group membership. Okay, so as I mentioned, we can add and remove access just by a few clicks, right? So we're going to add Ryan to the marketing team because I want him to get access to our Twitter and Facebook account. Right, so we don't see Twitter or Facebook right now. Right, so let's go back to Active Directory, and we're going to put them into our marketing team. All right, so let's switch back to his user portal. And normally this will refresh in just a moment, but I'll just do a manual reload for the sake of time. Now we see Twitter and Facebook automatically pop up. Right. And then to enforce separation of duties, we can also remove access to these web applications. Right? So as we want to make sure people don't have access to things they shouldn't have anymore when they change roles. Right? So not only when they leave the company, but also when they change roles within the company. So let's go ahead and remove Jack from the marketing team. And refresh, and we see Twitter and Facebook automatically disappear. Okay. Now we can also apply this to workstation logins as well. So we're going to go over to our Windows workstation here. And we're going to log in as Jack here. Right? And it's going to say I don't have permissions. Right? So Jack has no permissions to log in. Okay, so to grant him permission, let's go back to Active Directory, and let's add him to a new work group, a new security groups for workstation access. Okay. So now let's switch back to our Windows workstation. Right, and now we see Jack has permissions to be able to log in. And not only are we granting Jack permissions to log into the workstation, we're also securing the workstation with multi-factor authentication. Right? So you can control which options are being displayed for demonstration purposes. Right? I've added all the available options that Jack has been configured for. And here's Jack's favorite color. And we see we're logging in. Okay. So let's go back to our single sign-on portal, right? Because I just also want to point out the other areas that we can apply multi-factor authentication. It can also be at the app level. So meaning, we already saw Jack perform MFA to log into this user portal, but we can also add additional layer of multi-factor authentication just for extra security. So when Jack goes to Office 365, we see that he's also getting prompted for a multi-factor authentication. Right, so just a reminder, right? So we saw no MFA when Jack was going to Salesforce, but when Jack is going to Office 365, we can ask for multi-factor authentication. And as you can see, all right. So I also point out that we automatically create his account in Office 365 as well. Okay. So I showed you that we've done multi-factor authentication at the user portal to our single sign-on portal, and I also showed you MFA to our web application when Jack was logging into Office 365. I've also showed you that we can do MFA to do password reset, both in the user portal and at the computer login. Okay. And actually, the administrators can also allow users to unlock their account just using the same method with multi-factor authentication. You also saw that we could do multi-factor authentication at computer login. And then there's also offline, meaning if Jack brings his laptop into a plane, he can still use two-factor authentication even though he can't receive a phone call or text message. Okay. So some of the other MFA use cases that I'm not able to show you, but also includes VPN. So if you want to apply VPN for remote access, MFA into your VPN, we can do that. Or you're using any type of VDI solution, right? Such as AWS Workspaces, VMware Horizon, or Citrix NetScaler, we can also apply MFA there. Or if you've got some legacy applications that still are integrated with ADFS, we can also apply MFA there as well. So, we have the widest mobile authentication options, including our own mobile authenticator app, which pops up a approve or deny button, phone call, text messages. So we can call for your phone call, we can call your home phone, work phone, or mobile phone. You saw what SMS looked like. We can send emails, ask you security questions, which you saw. We can integrate with third-party OTP clients like a YubiKey or a Google Authenticator, and of course any FIDO compliant token as well. So just to summarize, in less than 1 minute, we showed you how we can enable an employee to gain access to multiple web applications with just one password and be able to reset their own password without IT involvement, be granted and revoked access to applications and computers with just a few clicks, and securely access corporate resources with multi-factor authentication right away, right, and not have to spend a lot of time and effort to set up their multi-factor authentication. Right. Thank you for your time.